Alright guys, today it's a hot day out. I don't think it'll be a long hive inspection anyways today. All we're going to do is see what their progress is in a honey super, make sure everything's going okay in a brood chamber, and replace those top bar beetle traps we set. And that should be about it. Also, we have a hive inspection coming from the actual inspector coming up in a couple of days here, actually in about 4 days or so, so I want to keep this inspection brief anyway. But let's just see what we got going on today. Alright guys, so in case you haven't stumbled upon this yourselves, I just noticed that if you have your beetle traps and you have trouble like knowing where to sit them while you're filling them and all that, what you could do is just use one of these pans. Even if you want to fill them freehand, at least you have a place to put them when you're done. But in this case, I'm trying to fill them while they're in the stand. And then you don't have to worry about them falling over and spilling so much. It's just a square pan. I don't even know what size it is. I just had it for dry feeding some imitation pollen to them, and noticed that this fits perfectly well for those beetle traps. So if you guys don't want to feel like your beetle traps are sitting precariously on the side like I was doing for the longest time, I was just leaning them up against the bricks, then that's one idea for you guys. Hope you find that helpful.
The smoker get rid of mosquitoes?
Alright, sure. If you ever listen to Texas Beesworks, she talks about the smoke is that like most creatures don't want to be around smoke, so they're all going to get away from it, and she always says that.
Well, that answers one question for me. How many bees can go through that opening? You put smoke in there and they dash through there so fast. All went inside.
They go really quick, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I noticed, because I like to watch them, they seem pretty unobstructed by that. And the reason why I chose to keep the entrance the way it is because I did some research on how big to make the entrance for swarm traps. And swarm traps are supposed to mimic the ideal space for bees to move into.
Yeah.
So if bees want to move into that space, and typically bees can't like enlarge their own hole because usually they pick like a tree or something like that. Oh, here's one thing I should do. I should rinse this. They're not eating much of their syrup, so that's a good thing. I think we'll just fill them one more time. Ooh, looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4. You could roughly say that this super is 40% manned by bees, which means we got a long wait until we add another super. Because what they go by when they talk about adding a new super is how many bees are filling the space. So if we find one day when we check in here that 80% of these frames are well packed with bees, then that would be an indication that sorry bees, that we should add a super. I'm just gonna get to some of these bigger combs to show the camera, and then we're just gonna be done with this, because really there's not gonna be much going on here. Hopefully anyways. We wouldn't want to see freaking moths or whatever. But again, this isn't like a brood thing, so they'd want the honey and everything, but you know, they need protein as well, all these pest bugs that affect beehives. Look, there's a little tiny baby bee. Some of these bees are real small. You can tell they're young nurse bees. Alright, so that comb's developing there.
And I got honey in there too.
Mm-hmm. Can you get behind the camera and focus in? Last time it did a job of, how's it looking? All you have to do is the shutter button, which is right on top here.
Yeah.
Right here. If you press that one down, even halfway it'll focus in, unless I'm too close to it, but.
I drop down a bit. The problem is we're in shade, then you don't see it as well. But
Oh, that's the situation we're in.
okay.
And then I'll grab one of these big ones in the center that's the most developed. Okay. And for this, I'm going to hold this one for that.
You don't want to take one of your bottom cones, it's really big. These are little short baby ones.
We'll do both, just because why not? And so all you'd have to do is already on photo is hit that center button once I get it.
Got it.
All right. See. Oh, one of them's capped. Look, one of them on this side. They capped one of the cells.
Oh, there you go.
We saw the first capping.
Yeah, because this side is like some of them are almost to the top.
And I don't know how well it's on the camera. Like Dan said, it's a little shady here, but that's just where our hive's situated. There's not a lot we could do about that. But at this point, you know, you get an idea of what's happening in our honey super. Like I said before, it's about 40% filled with bees, and I wouldn't even say it's really filled with bees. It's just they're doing some work in 40% of the super. So I can see that they're not jam-packed at 40%. So you might even say that this is more of a 30% super. There's a bee. I think that bee got squished and died there. That's weird. We didn't even like do anything there. She must have like got there at exactly there. Nope, she's alive. I was gonna say I didn't remember a bee being there when I moved it. And so, like I mentioned to you guys before, I'm squishing these frames back together because unless we have drawn comb on all these frames, it's just not a good idea to keep them apart, because what the bees will do is build those bridges. And if you've seen that one video where I got my first stings here, I got stung because I was cutting into their comb, and I know I killed at least one bee doing that, and probably more than I saw. So that's why I'm pushing these frames back together, is just to... The heck? Okay. Just to make sure that they don't bridge the comb and cause a mess that would make it difficult to do maintenance with them. Just gonna put these guys over here on this block. Place to put a frame, and we barely had the space to lean one of these big frames. Oh, you still have my phone? Good. I forgot that I didn't. Guess I'll just pry this up, and then we'll maybe I'll just puff them. I used to wonder why they're roaring so much, and wonder if it was still an okay thing, or if I was gonna deal with some aggressive bees. But I don't know how many hive inspections we just did, but over time I realized that anytime you smoke them, they're gonna buzz their wings to... Had to be careful there, because every time I was trying to put that queen excluder down, the bees started getting under the frame of it. And see it now, this, if you look down, this is like 90% full of bees, but they have space up in the honey. That's good. But that's what it looks like to have truly a certain percentage of bees here. Our honey super, it was like that, only it was like 50% as much bees on each of the frames. One thing I noted was when I got stung on the thumb last time, it was because, or I'm thinking it's because I was going around the center of the frame. And if you go towards the outside, I think the bees perceive it as less threatening. And so they're less defensive around the edges. And I myself am working toward developing an immunity to bee stings, but it's still good to not get stung. Okay, there's a whole lot of bees there. Tell me if you see the queen, just in case we happen to grab it. But, oh, there she is. See if we get her on the camera there. She's on the bottom of the frame, crawling around the edge of there. Can you see? Oh, the yellow dot. Now she's on the bottom of the frame. Now she's on. She went under. And now I don't know where she is. Oh, okay, now she's on this side. Can you see her? She got stung?
No, I have a whole bunch flying around my head.
Oh, don't worry about them. I don't know if you guys can see the queen on the bottom. On the camera, can you see it? She's on the bottom of the frame.
That's very dark.
Okay.
You might be able to lighten it up.
Okay. Well, at least we know where the queen is. So I'm just going to put this thing. This is not the frame that we're going to take out. Just because I don't want to risk squishing the queen. So. Oop, there's a bee buzzing there. Smoke them down a bit just in case they're. So I'm going to aim for this edge frame then, since we found the queen on the bottom of that one frame, and I want to do my best to avoid from squishing her. Alright.
Just done one little circle around the one end. Strange.
Okay, so you don't see the queen here, do you? Alright, so we're going to put this one down. That'll give us some space. And then we already know that she is here, and we don't need to go digging around looking at all the eggs and stuff. So let's just get straight into the beetle traps, and then that'll be it for this, especially since, like I was saying earlier, we got the hive inspection from the actual inspector on Tuesday, and this is Thursday, so with that being said, I don't want to keep them open for too long. Kind of, maybe I should have like waited till like the Thursday after that Tuesday, but in my own selfish way, I just wanted to see my bees. So maybe this isn't really a great decision, but
This one's following me around, won't give up.
Well, after we did the inspection at one time, well, if you run away, you're gonna get stung. All you gotta do is be calm. They're gonna buzz you for a while, but they're gonna leave you alone. All right. So there's not that many beetles in this trap right now. I'm probably too close for the camera's focus, but
I can see it.
but last time we pulled the same trap in that same location, there was like a dozen beetles there. Oops. So, oh, this is the one with a lot of honey on it that I'm gonna pull just for, just to show it.
Camera, you want to put that
Yeah, yeah, for your, oh, is it there? Right there. Then I think that should be it there. Okay, there we go.
So we just step back into the sunlight.
All right. Did it look good there for you?
Yeah.
All right. So just so you guys can see, again, I'm just kind of guessing where this is falling in the frame. I don't really know. There's a whole festoon of bees on the bottom, so hopefully the queen is not down there, because I would rather just not be handling the frame if the queen's on it. Alright, so I'm just going to put the beetle trap back in there. As you guys can see, we just filled the new traps that I was showing before with my little technique. Gotta smoke them. And this is not going in the same exact location. You can see from where the marks are from the last one. Oop. Just slowly, gradually closing the gap there. That way, if any bees are there, they have a fair chance to get out of the way and not get killed. All right. Then we're just going to work on the opposite side, get the other trap, and then we'll call it a day for this hive inspection. And this trap has about 2 beetles in it. So that's less beetles than we saw during the last inspection last week. We're just going to give them a new trap. Put this one back in the same exact location if the bees will let us. They have a habit of filling up the spaces when you leave them. And I have an error that, well, there's an error. I need to fill this with more cider because I spilled some. Through trial and error that if you leave these spaces open, the bees will just block them up, and then you have to be extra careful about putting these things down without squishing the bee. So, all we can do in that case is just puff smoke at them and this one's going to be a little tight because it's the last frame that we're putting in. Oh wait, that was the end frame actually, because we had difficulty putting this one. And as anybody will tell you who reads up on beekeeping, it's always the best practice to try to put the frames back in the exact same order that you found them, so that as best as possible you're making it seem to the bees as if their home was never disturbed in the first place. And that could be good for swarm prevention and all that other stuff. And this end here, the bees are trying to get under the frame, so I puffed them a little smoke to see if we could prevent from killing them. Hey Dan, if you want to see something pretty interesting, I'm going to put this down real carefully, but I think I heard a bee dying, getting squished. Try just picking up that super and see how much it already weighs, even though only about 40% of it has bees on it.
So what, the bottom one?
No, this one here,
This one there.
the super on top. Just grab it by the handles. Yeah, isn't that pretty heavy?
Oh.
And they're really only maybe 30-40% usage of bees. Oh good, you avoided these bees from getting crushed too on this side. And
Just luck.
They might have about 4 frames of actual honey pretty well established there, but that's how heavy it already is. Yeah, veil's like a good thing. Even, like, I don't like really wearing bee equipment, but the veil doesn't smother you too much. It doesn't cause you to sweat a lot. Where the rest of the bee equipment, I don't like the gloves because it feels like you can easily just squish way too many bees that you never intended to with the gloves and not even know that you did it. And during this inspection so far, I haven't been stung.
Maybe put some smoke around my face here.
Okay. Here, hold your breath. I also got to puff some around these guys because unlike the last inspection, these bees are all up in this feeder. So my strategy for today is feeding them is just to sit here and watch the bees for a little bit until they settle down. And then when I notice that they're not bothering the feeder anymore, then I'll fill it so I don't end up drowning bees in the feeder, which would be very counterproductive because I worry that that would cause bacteria and things to get in their food. I'm not sure if we're ready to stop feeding them, but it didn't seem like they really fed much anyways on what it is. However, there are bees in the feeder, so obviously they are feeding on it. So maybe next week we'll give them another half a tank like we did this time. They're definitely eating less. And if they still don't make much use of it, then maybe we'll just stop feeding them until we see the flowers go away.
Have you mixed the sugar yet?
Yeah. Oh. Just in case any bees, yep. At least one of them flew under there. But up here on the top cover I put mesh to try to stop some of those ants. And that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the inspection, and stay tuned for more.